So thank you, team. Thanks, Paddy. So Sriram, we'll call you Paddy. I think you respond well to that. Siddhartha, thank you for your time. Ipshita, thanks for coming all over from Gurgaon, 2 hours of traffic. And thanks from Bombay, Rohit, thank you for being here. So my name is Himanshu. I'll be on this panel trying to get very simple answers to a very complex and very complicated subject. I was told, the topic of our discussion is going to be complex technology with creative simplicity, the left and the right side of the brain. We'll try and get some answers from our fellow panelists here. So we'll jump straight into it. Rohit, I have my first question for you. While it is an accepted fact that creativity and technology must come together for maximum consumer impact, are brands able to balance this in the real world scenario? And what are some of the challenges that you face as a marketer?
Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. It's a fascinating question, and I think I'll start by saying that there's no trade-off between creativity and technology. The two have to work together. Technology is an enhancer or an amplifier of creativity. So the big idea is the big idea. That's what really matters. And then technology can help you really amplify it. Couple of examples that I'll talk about. One is, I think, a brand that's been doing really good work in this area is Mondelez. Okay, they've really embraced technology and data. And the campaign that they did with SRK, where they were able to use him as a brand ambassador to promote small businesses, using technology was very incredibly powerful and a great example. I'll also talk about something that we do at Castrol. Okay, we have an influencer in our category that's the mechanic. So that's the person that fixes your car or bike in a local garage. Now, India has about 300 million vehicles on the road. Okay, and last year we added 25 million to the sales, which means there are new models, new technologies coming in at a very rapid pace. You have the traditional combustion engines, you have hybrid vehicles, and now you have electric vehicles. Imagine that person in that garage trying to fix your car or bike. How challenging has it become for that individual to understand the new technology, right? And there's no formal training, there's no formal certification that equips this person to be able to service your vehicle well. So we did a bit of work to understand and landed on this insight that there's a great opportunity for us as a brand to upskill these mechanics, teach them about the latest technology, and therefore help them be more confident in their jobs and do well. And by the way, that means all our vehicles stay on the road and are operating perfectly. So we built a platform and an app where we're able to transact with them and also develop training content that we're able to then reach to them at scale. And that's a platform where we have several 100,000 mechanics who are on the platform, learning every day, earning, using our products. So that's an example of, an insight and a need for a hard-to-reach customer cohort. There are about 1 million mechanics in India, but using technology to be able to reach them at scale and then fulfill some of their needs. So I think technology, like I said, is an enhancer, it's an amplifier, but it really comes down to what's the problem you're trying to solve, what's the consumer or the customer need, and therefore the idea is the idea, and that's what's important.
Very interesting there. So one of the things that must be said on this panel is that all of us represent very diverse industries, and it may be generally true that every industry has the exact same thought process. But we'll get your views on the same question, Paddy. Do you think creativity and technology in the real world come together to create maximum impact for consumers?
I think, first of all, thanks for having me here, and thanks to Rohit for setting the stage. So the answer is always yes. So it's like, when we started marketing, people used to ask, is it science or an art? So it's never or, it's always an and. And in India, it's always an and, for most of the situations that you can think about. I think Rohit put it beautifully. The core is the idea, and I think what sometimes we forget is why this idea is even there, which has to begin with what's the business objective we are trying to drive. And as long as we are true to what the objective is and not forget the objective in the process of having the right idea and how we amplify the technology, I think we will stay true to the course. Probably one example, and also I'll probably do a bit more back-end example to what, so Rohit was more on the front-end side of it. We are trying to evaluate new spaces to enter, and we deployed one tool to do social listening and to also generate concepts on the fly. So the tool itself was helping us generate concepts which typically would have otherwise come into the ambit of the brand manager stroke agency partners. So while the technology helped us generate multiple sort of ideas as to what it can come through, but then what we realized is that it was still coming to a lowest common denominator, and sometimes lowest common denominator doesn't work. And that is where you need to have judgment. We should not prioritize, but we should make a choice. Choice means what you do, what you don't do. Priority still sometimes means that you will do, not today, but sometime tomorrow. So I think that is where we will have to be watchful. Why did we even start? What are we trying to pursue? To stay true to that course and continue to have judgment, because creativity is about judgment, and that human mind is far more capable to do versus what technology. Technology will bring in a lot of options, but it's where the judgment comes in then.
Well, thanks, Paddy. So, just to pick your brains a little bit on that. So, you're talking about UGC. Was that the common, least common denominator that you were trying to arrive at from a user-generated content level?
So, it was the next step for us from a UGC perspective, but even to sort of, I was coming more from what messaging will work, and for what messaging to work, we had used a tech tool to look at what conversations are happening and what conversations are getting more shared and are getting sort of more liked, so that we know, okay, these are some of the common threads of conversations, and if we use these threads of conversations in our own messaging, will that work better?
Understood. Yeah. Thanks for that, Paddy. Siddharth, will come to you. So Siddharth represents Air India Express, and we were talking backstage, a lot of activities, mergers going on within the group. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of insights that we can learn, but I have a very simple yet a very complicated question for you. Technology tends to standardize and templatize, right? Well, actually, I'll leave that for Ipshita. I'll come for an even better one. Marketers often advise that the best ideas are rooted in simplicity. Is this possible in the age of data and AI?
First of all, thanks for having me over here, and it's very interesting to listen to the both of you. I think it can be, as long as you retain the focus on it. There's the age-old cliche, and I won't cite it in front of Rohit much or delve into it, but the data is the new oil, right? And of course, Rohit will say no. That's not true. Oil is still the new oil. But you can't swim in oil. And so as much as you want to have more and more access to data and to delve into it, what it often does is robs the individuals who are delving into that data the insight that is needed for the simplicity of either the communication or the concept or the product itself. One example comes to mind of a story that I was discussing with Harit Nagpal, who is the CEO of Tata Play. And like many good marketers around the world, cut his teeth in the Unilever days for a long time. And he was reviewing one of the interns in Mumbai. And two of you are from Mumbai, so you'll appreciate the story in Worli, where they have their sales. And this person was working on the ice cream category. And this intern had spent about 6 weeks already looking at that, and the numbers were just not growing in the category. And so he was asking him, saying, what have you been doing for the last 6 weeks? And so he said, I'm analyzing the point of sale data from all these different stores. And he said, have you been to the 2 largest stores which are there in the market, which are selling your ice creams? He said, yeah, we have not been over there, but we've deployed our fridges over there. And he said, if you go to the store, you realize that they're not stocking quality walls, or you've deployed a branded fridge, but there's Vadilal ice cream selling in the fridge and stocking over there. So you can analyze that data to death sitting from a computer or a laptop, or in where we operate from. But unless you actually see what the proof of the moment of truth is with the customer, you lose that focus, and it often comes back to looking at what is the overarching philosophy that you want to take. And take a couple of examples which are closer to the industry that I am in. When we were revamping our website for bookings, we came up with the proposition of saying this website has to stand for fast bookings, fantastic value, and fab deals. And we launched a contest when we did the website to say the people who can clock the fastest bookings, we'll give free flights to. And we hit a record of the top 5 fastest bookers were able to move from search to payments in 15 seconds. The number 1 fastest booker did it in 13 seconds. Now that became a benchmark after that for us to say anything that you do to enhance the website, because we're often very obviously there is enough which you can do to try and upsell, whether it is insurance or seats or meals or put notifications, etc. And there is a little bit of incremental money on the table each time you do that. And we often get tempted in our journeys to say, let me try and optimize how much we can extract from the consumer. And as you do that, you realize that, while you're doing that, you might be able to do that incremental, but over a period of time, you will begin to start losing what the core proposition was. So as long as that core proposition remains of the simplicity of the idea, to say, no, I must focus on fast bookings, then you won't dilute it over time, because data is telling you to add another piece here and there. Another element on the same subject I learned when I was working with the Taj from the executive chef who was operating out of the Taj President in Mumbai, Ananda Solomon, who revamped Trattoria and launched a Thai Pavilion in Mumbai. His pricing on his menu on a single page, and we've adopted the same pricing concept at Air India Express for the in-flight menu. He had one price on the menu for all the dishes. We've done the same. So when you buy an idli vada on our flight, or you buy a steamed fish or a biryani on the flight, it's priced at the same price point of 600 rupees. We consciously said we won't do the bata pricing, and we will not try. Obviously, people's propensity to pay for a biryani is higher than an idli vada. But his concept was, I don't want my consumers to choose my dish based on what the price point of the dish is. I want them to choose based on what they actually want to eat. And so if you keep that simplicity of the idea, over time, your consumers will begin to interact with you, because they like that user experience and that simplicity in the way in which you're communicating with them. And it builds an element of trust to say, you're not trying to extract the maximum value out of the user. But data can often throw you off that and say, why don't you make it, 639 rupees is actually the optimal price.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. This is brilliant. Thank you. Ipshita, we discussed this while we were talking at backstage, and I'd love for you to share it with the audience as well. According to you, technology tends to standardize and templatize, right? Is this stifling when it comes to creativity, and how so?
Thanks, first of all. Good afternoon, everybody. I know we are standing between you and lunch, so I'll try and keep it simple. So I think there are a lot of buzzwords, and sometimes it can get a little overwhelming for all of us, especially in marketing, along with our agencies who are very, very eager, always eager to bring in what's the latest, and why don't you try this and why don't you try that. I think it all boils down to technology and creativity, what you're trying to do. I fundamentally believe technology is an enabler. You can never put the horse before the cart, right? So it's an enabler. It will help you achieve what you're trying to achieve. Today, what we see more and more, and in my experience over the last 2 decades of being in this industry and being a practitioner, yes, there are a lot of templates around. Generative AI, anything you look at, everything gives you a particular template, and you can very easily get swayed by it and say that, hey, I've created a video and I've created this content. But is that content really solving the consumer problem? Is it really based on insight? Is it really tagging on a human problem? I think all of those are levers of creativity which technology cannot provide. So once you have identified a problem, once you have identified an insight, it's an execution tool to my mind. Creativity, the idea, the insight, the problem always has to precede technology, and technology has to enable that. You cannot think of that, hey, I'm going to now make a video and then start the work. You have to have the context defined very well first, and then technology can help you, and you can choose to take the templates or not choose to. But it should not stifle creativity. Creativity is based on human insight, and that will continue no matter how many buzzwords you keep having around you.
Yeah, so it's an idealistic response. I mean, I tend to agree that we should not, but is it? Is it true in our day-to-day life?
It does. I mean, I do see people taking shortcuts. And it's very simple, right? Let me give you an example of my 13-year-old son. I mean, he is on Canva, and I've learned Canva from him. He looks at the kind of work I do, and he tells me I can do it very easily. It gives you that flexibility, and everything is available. I do see, especially the younger generation that's coming now, they are getting swayed a lot by the buzzwords of technology and losing the foresight of why you are doing what you are doing. I do see that happening, and I do see a risk there, because as marketers, as clients sitting here, we want things churned very quickly, right? All of us. We all want quick turnaround times, and we want everything as of yesterday. So it's very tempting to give in to that and to get whatever is getting generated through a template. But I think that's where our wisdom comes in. Do we really want that, or do we really want to peg ourselves on an insight and do the right thing? So I do see that happening, and people do taking shortcuts.
Yeah, Paddy, go ahead, please.
This is just my experience. I think sometimes it can be stifling if the work is distributed in silos. So what I have seen is, so if you see the structure around, then there are some specialists within the marketing function, and then they are speaking to the specialist agency partners as well. And if I don't need to sort of, be an expert, but I need to appreciate, what the specialist functions can bring to the table. And a lot of times, if the teams are not well trained and they are not fully aware of what is coming to the table, that is where then this is my work, this is your work, I really don't know how it is going from, the baton is getting passed from one team to the other. And that is where then individual team functions can start feeling, this is stifling.
Absolutely. Siddhartha, do you have any views on this? We all will agree to the fact that yes, technology beyond a point is going to help us get there, but then we'll get used to the shortcuts very, very quickly. And if the next generation is doing it, I'm sure it's going to get passed on to the newer generation coming after them as well. What's that fine line? How do we not cross over at times? So Paddy has a view. Don't work in silos, build on top. What's your view?
I agree, completely. And I'm also going back to what Sandeep Sangwan said in the morning in the keynote. where he spoke about three things and one of the three things he spoke about was excellence in execution. And when you do shortcuts, you lose sight of that excellence in execution. Now, with the shortcuts, obviously, and we're as much, to blame for it because we keep pushing our teams, as Ipshita was saying, to say, but turn it around fast. I've been guilty of it myself to sort of go to, Gemini or ChatGPT and say, well, why is it taking a day and a half to give me a headline? Here are 5 headlines I've generated in 15 minutes. But at the heart of it that what's true is often that shortcut, because it's so easily and readily available, is not going to be differentiated. And if you want to create some meaningful differentiation in the long term, then you have to be able to put the effort for the excellence in the execution. Otherwise, you're commoditizing your own brand in the industry because everybody's effectively churning out the same concept. We see the same stock photography being used, for example, and there's a similarity in the nature of AI images or content that is being generated. We've not got to a stage where it's sufficiently differentiated. But I mean, the point you made is actually very relevant, and one of the reasons, and each organization has its own solutions to that, but structural solutions to some of these problems of stifling creativity. What we've done, for instance, is we have put the UX team for the website and the graphic design and content team under the same head, so that our creative team and our UX team are actually working together. Now, we did that initially to have more structure to the brand guidelines flowing into the UX because it was a new brand when we launched it. But we've seen that thought of having creativity as the first starting point for the UX actually often breaks down, so that you're marrying that beauty of simplicity and the use of data and analyzing the clickstream data to make sure that you have an optimal experience, with staying true to what is also actually a very beautiful experience, because it's coming from an insight of a mindset that thinks as a human. And in this whole world of trying to do everything from a binary perspective, what you will do often is lose that sense of empathy with what the original interaction is supposed to be.
Absolutely, Siddhartha. I think this is a topic very close to my heart as well. User experience. This is perhaps the most talked about subjects, and I don't want to divert on it, but there's a lot of views on how the user journeys flow for a brand and how that eventually helps in retention and then further in brand loyalty. So we'll get into that, but I have my next question for you, Rohit, and I can see the timer. I think we're almost going to be out of time in about 3 minutes. But this question is for you, Rohit. We've been speaking about Gen AI a lot, right? And we've spoken a lot of these tools being in their DNA having a thread of Gen AI, and that's how evaluations of these software tools eventually happen when it comes to business, right? But is there any strong work really coming out of that Gen AI piece, which gets evaluated at the very top of it, but when we really look at outcomes, has it transformed anything on the field level for your business?
I think it's a fascinating conversation, and loving hearing from the rest of you about how you think about it. So I think we're in the early days. It's an exciting territory, and it's the next big thing, and we all like to be ahead of the curve and look at the trends, right? I think it's early days and we're experimenting. There are different use cases that we see today. So firstly, from a content production perspective, there's massive efficiency. There's saving in terms of time, effort. So we did a bit of work with Gen AI on a recent social media campaign for bikers, and we understand that it improved productivity by about 70%. Okay, and we were able to get creatives out at a much faster pace. We were able to scale up social media following, etc., etc. So there are simplistic use cases around productivity that's kind of working well. Then I think in the area of personalization, there is certainly deeper engagement that you can have with consumers. Okay, and there are many examples of brands trying things that are working well. You are able to give a more personalized experience. A simple example of that is a birthday wish in your own voice, which one of the brands did extremely well last year and got massive sort of engagement scores on. So there are pockets, and I think as marketers, we are curious and we are experimenting, and I think there is some experimenting going on to understand what's happening. Some pitfalls, sometimes AI can hallucinate and you get some funny images. There are challenges on copyright, right? Whose trademark are you impinging upon? Data privacy, absolutely. Your compliance and legal team are having sleepless nights and are having to kind of do all the manual stuff that you're automating at the other end. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. We're all trying to navigate this ecosystem. But I think what Siddhartha said beautifully was around differentiated ideas. While everyone is now talking about the fact that you can go through lots of data and come with content, with themes, with insights, how do you stay differentiated? Right, and I think that's really important, and having that fundamental consumer and customer understanding of your own is really the key to success. So I think it is an enabler. There's a lot of exciting activity happening in multiple areas. There's good progress. There are some watch outs. There are things for brands to think about, because you could get into trouble very quickly if you don't have an ecosystem of legal, compliance, data privacy, all that in place as you take this forward. So I think it's a very exciting area. Experiment, learn, and see where it takes you. But you need the insight, and differentiation is important, as we've heard through the day.
Oil remains the new oil, right? Okay. Hoshi, I know time's up, but I'm going to take our friendship for granted here a little bit. Okay, another 5 minutes, and I'll actually leave this as an open question. And anyone who wants to answer this, can please go ahead. What should brands bear in mind when they're juggling the right and the left brain? Okay. Any words of advice? Just key takeaways for people here. Left and right brain. Is there a pivot here?
So I think it's a topic in which we can go hours and hours talking about it. But I think again, I think all of us have mentioned it. It's complementary. The business that we are in, we must not forget that fundamentally we are dealing with human beings. Whatever category we all may be operating in, at the end of the day, we are delivering solutions to human problems. And there will always be the relevance of mixing the right and the left brains. The left will always tell you the logical and the process-oriented way of solving that problem, and the right brain will tell you how creatively and more engagingly you can tackle the problem. So I think if we just keep it and guys, let's keep it very simple. I think we tend to overcomplicate things because there is so much happening around us and there is so much access to everything to everybody, right? So there's so much democratization of data, information, overload all around us. Sometimes we forget to keep things simple. And if we just keep things simple, we will find that is always a balance between the right and the left brain, because they complement each other as human beings and as solution providers to human problems.
Great. Paddy, any last thoughts?
Probably I'll just add one point. I think sometimes it also depends on what situation you are in as a business. So I have been in situations wherein our backs have been against the wall and no amount of data and insights have really given a very clear direction, and we had to take leap of faith. So, and in a lot of times, an idea has started gaining traction, and now we have to ensure that we run it in the most efficient means possible, and that's where a lot of, the right tools and the right analytics has to come in place, because we have got the right idea in place. Now it's about getting that idea to as many people as possible. So yes, it's always an and, but you will have to judge the situation you're in and also take the judgment with you and have the conviction to take the judgment.
Fair enough. Any last thoughts, or I'll summarize. Rohit, you want to go? Siddharth, you good? So a couple of key takeaways for me. Technology is an enabler. We all agree to that. Oil remains the new oil, right? This is, I'm gonna use this very often. Never horse before the cart. Work in silos. I think, Paddy, you said that. I think this is such a gem because we all tend to do that. We tend to repeat, which has already been done. Never learn from mistakes. Never build on something that's already been there. Excellence in execution, I think one of the key takeaways Sandeep mentioned right up in the keynote. It's great. And Rohit, you said this, right? AI can hallucinate. So I'm a more learned man today. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.